Okay, here are our objectives for today's webinar. First, we will define what creative problem solving is and the importance of it in the workplace. You'll also learn the importance and use of divergent and convergent thinking in the process and how to use this information to generate and present positive solutions. Have you ever faced a problem that you thought was almost insurmountable? Perhaps your boss has asked you to reduce spending in your department, but you can't see where to make cuts without sacrificing quality. Dealing with obstacles and challenges is a regular part of our working life, and overcoming them isn't always easy. To improve your products, services, communications, and interpersonal skills, and for you and your organization to excel, you need to encourage creative thinking and find innovative solutions that work. We often hear the phrase, thinking outside the box, but how do we get to the stage where thinking in this way becomes accessible? Our daily routines tend to be fairly repetitive, especially for office workers, which teaches our brains to expect the same activities every day, making it harder for us to come up with creative solutions. Alice Osborne, who was one of the first, if not the first, to write about the practical application of brainstorming and creative problem solving, what he said was, creativity is more than mere imagination. It is imagination coupled with both intent and effort. Sidney Parnes collaborated with Osborne during the 1950s to develop what is known as the creative problem-solving process. I like what Parnes said about creativity. Of all the gifts we have as humans, the one that stands out giant-like above all the rest is our ability to be creative. It is responsible for all the progress we enjoy today. In the creative problem-solving process developed by Parnes and Osborne, there are three elements that form the foundation of this process: fact-finding, idea-finding, and solution-finding. Let's go over these in a bit more detail. Okay? Fact-finding is what it says. It calls for problem definition and preparation. Problem definition involves picking out and pointing out the specific problem. Preparation is gathering and analyzing the pertinent data that might assist in solving that problem. Idea finding calls for idea production and idea development, two little bit different things. Idea production calls for thinking up tentative ideas as possible leads, and idea development involves selecting the most likely of the resulting ideas, adding others, and reprocessing all of these by either modifying or combining ideas. Solution finding calls for evaluation and adoption. Evaluation is verifying the possible solutions by testing them, for example, in real applications. And adoption involves deciding on and implementing the final solution. Regardless of sequence, every one of those steps calls for deliberate effort and creative imagination. It's important to understand that creative problem solving is a well-defined process that can help you from problem definition to implementing solutions. Creative ideas do not suddenly appear in people's minds for no apparent reason. Rather, they are the result of trying to solve a specific problem or to achieve a particular goal. Creative problem solving, or sometimes we call it CPS, is a proven method for approaching a problem or a challenge in an imaginative and innovative way. It's a process that helps you redefine the problems and opportunities you face, come up with new innovative responses and solutions, and then take action. Noted creative problem-solving educator and practitioner Ruth Knoller described CPS as the sum of its parts. Let's go through these definitions. Creative specifies elements of newness, innovation, and novelty. problem refers to any situation that presents a challenge, offers an opportunity, or represents a troubling concern. And solving means devising ways to answer, to meet, or to satisfy a situation by changing either yourself or the situation. There are two assumptions with CPS. First is that everyone is creative in some way, and we often don't think that. And the second one is that creative skills can be learned and enhanced. Some people think creative people are just born that way, when in fact, creative skills can actually be learned. Many people will say, for example, that they are not creative, but most have the capacity to access the right side of the brain more extensively than they currently do. Development of this part of the brain can be hugely beneficial in the workplace and can aid employees in thinking more creatively to come up with solutions. We can develop creativity by taking ourselves out of our everyday environments and just trying something new. Innovation and originality are often key values in many businesses' propositions, but in order to implement real innovation, we need to learn to think outside the box and get creative with our thought processes. Inspiration is also a key factor, but where can we find inspiration to creatively problem solve in the workplace? Well, we often see others as the inspiration for big achievements, so why not look to each other as inspiration? Everyone is creative in some way. One technique of incorporating creative problem solving into the workplace is by encouraging everyone to see the problem in a fresh perspective. By inducing a change in perspective, the solution to the problem at times becomes obvious. So dealing with obstacles and challenges is a regular part of working life, and overcoming them, as we already said, isn't always easy. To improve your products, services, communications, and interpersonal skills, and for you and your organization to excel, you need to encourage creative thinking and find innovative solutions that work. These two distinct kinds of thinking that are essential to being creative are what we call divergent and convergent thinking. Divergent thinking is the process of generating lots of potential solutions and possibilities, otherwise known as brainstorming. And convergent thinking involves evaluating those options and choosing the most promising one. Often, we use a combination of the two to develop new ideas or solutions. However, using convergent and divergent thinking together can result sometimes in unbalanced or biased decisions and can stifle idea generation. So each of us engages in both kinds of thinking on a daily basis. The secret to creating new ideas, however, is to separate your divergent thinking from your convergent thinking. This means first generating lots and lots of options before you consider evaluating them. Brainstorming is often misunderstood as the entire creative problem solving or CPS process, but it is not. Brainstorming is the divergent thinking process. It is not simply a group of people in a boardroom coming up with ideas in some disorganized fashion. Brainstorming at its core is generating lots of ideas in a clean, somehow divergent manner. And this can be done as an individual or group or through a crowd-sharing process. The secret to creating new ideas is to separate your divergent thinking from your convergent thinking, because if you get the two mixed up, you're not going to be able to generate lots of great ideas. Brainstorming is best achieved by the following. First of all, avoid making judgments about the ideas you develop. You're just trying to get them on the board. Use one idea to help spur other ideas. Then build, combine, and improve those ideas and stretch your imagination to create even wild ideas. This is just an opportunity for you to open up your mind. While these ideas may not all work, allowing yourself to think way outside the box gives you room to discover extraordinary ideas. take the time necessary to generate a substantial list of potential options. So next we're going to talk about a few steps you can take during your brainstorming process to creatively problem solve. Arguably, the most single important step of CPS, or creative problem solving, is identifying your real problem or goal. This may seem easy, but very often what we believe to be the problem is not the real problem or goal. The best way to clarify the problem and understand the underlying issues is to ask yourself a series of questions about your problem in order to clarify the true issues. The first question to ask may be simply, why is this a problem? Or why do I wish to achieve this goal? In answering that question, you may find out that either there isn't a problem or there needs to be a redefinition of the problem. Next, research the problem in order to get a better understanding of it. Depending on the nature of this problem, you may need to do a great deal of research, or you may not need to do any at all. At this point, it should be clear what the actual problem is or goal should be. The next step is to turn these issues into creative challenges. A creative challenge is basically a simple question framed to encourage suggestions or ideas. Creative challenges should be simple, concise, and focus on a single issue. Try not to include too much evaluation criteria, as this might limit your creative thinking. Finally, we come to the part where we truly implement creative thinking to solve problems, idea generation. Take the problem at hand and give yourself some quiet time to generate a series of solutions that may or may not solve the problem. This is really important. Write down every idea that comes to mind. Even if the idea is ludicrous or fails to solve the challenge, write it down, because the way the brain works is the more stuff that you get out, the deeper your thinking becomes. Most people are their own worst critics, and by squelching their own ideas, they make themselves less creative. So write everything down, no exceptions, and don't give yourself a time limit. Here's where we can get creative. Let's say you are feeling less than inspired. Take this step outside, literally. You don't need to brainstorm at your desk. Haven't we had all our best ideas in the shower or outside? Determine what your resources are. Perhaps you can ask a coworker for their ideas, or a neutral party with no tie to the problem. Another great source of creative ideas is to use a search engine to see what others, especially experts on the subject matter, have said. So once these brainstorming steps are complete, then it is critical to come together and decide upon the best idea. This is convergent thinking. At certain points in the creative process, thinking and focus need to shift. To select the best of our divergent options, determine their potential value. In the convergent thinking process, choice is deliberate and conscious. Criteria are purposefully applied as we screen, select, evaluate, and refine the options. After you've written down all of your ideas, take a break. Then go through the ideas. Related ideas can be combined together to form big ideas. Depending on the nature of the challenge and the winning ideas, you may be ready to jump right in and implement your ideas. In other cases, ideas may need to be developed further, and that's where you go back into your brainstorming session and do your divergent thinking. But when it's time to make decisions about the ideas generated during the brainstorming phase by divergent thinking, consider the following. Be deliberate. Allow decision-making the time and respect it requires. Okay, avoid snap decisions or harsh judgments. Give every option a fair chance. Next, check your objectives. Verify choices against your objectives in each step. This is a reality check. Are the choices on track towards solving the real problem? Improve your ideas. Not all ideas are workable solutions. Even promising ideas must be honed and strengthened. Take the time to improve your ideas. Then be affirmative. Even in convergence, it's important to first consider what's good about an idea and judge for the purpose of improving rather than eliminating ideas. A lot of people just want to, if they don't like the idea, they just want to cut it out. But in fact, what we really need to do is to look at each one and see, can it be improved, rather than just toss it. And then consider novelty. Don't dismiss novel or original ideas. Consider ways to tailor them, rework them, or tame them down a little bit. Okay, so at this point, you have some great ideas. However, a lot of people have trouble motivating themselves to take the next step. Creative ideas may mean big changes or taking risks. Some of us love change and risk, but others of us are scared to it. Draw up an action plan with the simple steps you need to take in order to implement your ideas. Ideas that involve a lot of work to implement can be particularly intimidating. Breaking their implementation down into a series of readily accomplished tasks makes these ideas easier to cope with and implement. Do it. This is the simplest step of all. Take your action plan and implement your idea. Before you can do that, we need to think about some more core principles of the CPS model. Okay, so CPS has 4 core principles. First, divergent and convergent thinking must be balanced. The key to creativity is learning how to identify and balance divergent and convergent thinking. They're done separately, and you need to know when to practice each one. Some people are very creative and they like to do all of the brainstorming. Some people are very practical and theoretical thinkers and they like to do the problem solving. You need to put both of those together and they need to have balance and distinct separation. Next, ask problems as questions rather than making statements and that cannot be challenged. So when you rephrase problems and challenges as open-ended questions with multiple possibilities, it's easier to come up with solutions. Asking these types of questions generates lots of rich information, while asking closed questions tends to elicit short answers, such as confirmations or disagreements. So an example might be, and I'm quoting, "What about this solution might cause resistance?" So that would be a question that asks an open-ended question. It's an open-ended question, and it can generate some ideas from the audience. And the question again is, what about this solution might cause resistance? Next, defer or suspend judgment. Very important. Judging solutions early on tends to shut down idea generation. Instead, there's an appropriate and necessary time to judge ideas during the convergent stage. And then focus on yes and rather than no but. Language matters when you're generating information and ideas. Yes and encourages people to expand their thoughts, which is necessary during certain stages of CPS. Using the word but preceded by yes or no ends conversation and often negates what's come before it. So for example, if someone comes up with a great idea that you have some initial reservations about, you could say, "Yes, I think that idea has merit, and I think we could look at it from another perspective as well." Saying "but" in this example undermines the initial positive intent. So that would sound like, "Yes, I think that idea has merit, but I think we should take a look at it from another perspective." So the "and" is more affirming, and when you say "but," you automatically dismiss the "yes" approach that you actually intended. So now that you have some great solutions based on your creative problem-solving process, the following tips will assist you in presenting your ideas to your team members. Remember that because your proposed solutions may not be viable at the moment, it does not mean that they are not worthy of sharing. And sometimes people get afraid of this. They come up with a great idea, but it may be so different that they're afraid to actually present it. So the first step is to know your audience. How receptive are they going to be? And what objections do you think they may have? Anticipating these ahead of time is going to help you to define clearly what the problem was and how you came about to your solutions. Second, explain the objectives. Tell your audience what you will be going over within this idea, what the problem is, what you did to come up with the solution, what the solution is, and how this solution, your idea, can become a reality. And use specific examples to support your idea. Explain how this creative idea can be practically applied to a situation. And finally, open the floor to questions and be open to new ideas. Okay? One last thing to keep in mind while presenting your creative and innovative ideas is that criticism has a lot of great benefits. It helps foster your problem-solving skills, opens you up to new perspectives, and it serves as an opportunity to explore the flaws behind your ideas so that when you create new ones, you're able to present constructive solutions in the future. It's not personal, so remind yourself to be free of the attachment to your ideas and to keep an open mind to the feedback. So let's go back to where we started. Creative problem solving in theory is a simple process, but critical to moving your business forward. If you do not use it already, consider thinking outside the box the next time a problem arises and watch for the innovative ideas that occur when thinking creatively. Also, this is really important. Include as many people in the process as possible. Remember that we're all creative and everyone brings new and innovative ways of thinking to the table. So in this session, we've explored the following. What constitutes creative thinking to solve problems, as well as understanding the need and importance of creative problem solving in the workplace. We talked about using convergent and divergent thinking in the problem-solving process, and lastly, how to generate and present positive solutions.